Hi there, thanks for being here. This is an original story from Hidden Revenge Family, and it took a turn you truly didn't see coming. Let's get into it.
A dark red drop hit the white silk napkin in my lap. It spread fast, too fast, like it knew it had an audience. I didn't react right away. I never do. Panic wastes energy, and energy is something my body doesn't like to spare. Around me, the room kept moving for about half a second. Glasses clinked. Someone laughed too loud. A waiter walked past with a tray of champagne like nothing was wrong. Then someone saw it. Then everyone did. The officers' club went quiet in that specific way people go quiet when they don't want to be involved but also can't look away. I lifted the napkin slightly and pressed it under my nose. Warm blood soaked into the silk. Expensive. Of course it was. My sister wouldn't celebrate her promotion anywhere that didn't cost more than most people's monthly rent. Jesus, someone whispered nearby. Not concern, disgust. I kept my posture straight. Back aligned, shoulders relaxed, breathing controlled. I've had worse episodes than this. Still, I could feel the stares, not curious, not worried, embarrassed. For me, for themselves for being near me. Before I could adjust the napkin, my father's hand came out of nowhere and grabbed it, hard. Give me that, Clayton muttered through his teeth. He yanked it away and immediately replaced it with another, pressing it against my face like he was trying to erase me. Keep it down, he said quietly, but not quietly enough. You're making a scene. I didn't argue. I let him press the napkin against my nose like I was a problem he could physically contain. Across the table, Beatrice exhaled sharply. Not worried, annoyed. Of course, she said, shaking her head. You always find a way, don't you? Her uniform was perfect, every line crisp. Every medal placed exactly where it should be. Her new rank major sat on her shoulder like it had always belonged there. She didn't even look at me when she said it. Tonight of all nights, she added, lifting her glass like I was just background noise. You couldn't wait until we got home. A few officers chuckled awkwardly, not because it was funny, because they didn't want to be on the wrong side of her. I adjusted the napkin myself this time, taking it back from my father's grip. I'm fine, I said. Simple, flat, done. Beatrice finally looked at me. Her eyes scanned me the way people check a stain on the carpet. You're not fine, she said. You're a liability. There it was, straight to the point. I appreciated that. Dalton leaned forward beside her, resting his elbows casually on the table like this was just another business meeting. He smiled at me. That kind of smile that pretends to be supportive, but is already calculating your value. Actually, he said, sliding a folder across the table toward me. This is exactly what we wanted to talk about. The folder stopped right in front of me. Clean, official, pre-prepared. I didn't open it yet. I think it's time we made things easier for everyone, Dalton continued. Especially you. My father nodded immediately like this had been rehearsed. Your condition isn't improving, Clayton said. And managing your affairs is getting complicated. Complicated. That's one way to describe it. Dalton tapped the folder lightly. Medical and financial power of attorney, he said. Standard procedure. Just sign it and the family can take care of everything. No more stress for you. Beatrice took a sip of her drink, watching me over the rim of the glass. No more mistakes, she added. I finally opened the folder. The document was clean. Legal language. Tight. Efficient. They had done this properly. Too properly. Grandfather's trust was mentioned on page 2. There it was, the real reason. Not my health. My access. I closed the folder slowly. The room was still watching, trying not to look like they were watching. I placed my hand on top of the paper. Dalton leaned in a little closer. Look, he said, lowering his voice like he was doing me a favor. You don't have to carry this alone. You're not built for it. Not built for it. That phrase again. My father let out a short laugh. Not loud, not polite, just enough to carry. Sign it, Clayton said, leaning back in his chair. Let's stop pretending. I didn't move. He tilted his head, studying me like he was already tired of the conversation. You're sick, he went on. You always have been. A few people shifted in their seats. No one interrupted him. You're not fit for real work, he added. You wouldn't last a day on an actual warship. There it was, the line he'd been waiting to deliver. Stop embarrassing this family, he said, his voice sharper now. We have a military name to uphold. Don't drag it down because you can't keep yourself together. Silence hit the table harder than any shout could. No one defended me. No one ever does in rooms like this. I felt the blood slow under the napkin. My breathing stayed even. No shaking, no tears. I reached up, removed the napkin from my face, and folded it neatly, careful, precise, like it mattered. I placed it on the table, then I picked up the document. For a second, Dalton looked relieved. My father leaned forward slightly. Beatrice didn't smile, but her shoulders relaxed. I folded the paper once, then again, then I slipped it into my coat pocket. The relief disappeared. "What are you doing?" Dalton asked. I looked up, not angry, not emotional, just steady. "I'll think about it," I said. My father's jaw tightened. "That's not how this works," he snapped. I held his gaze. For the first time that night, I didn't look like the weakest person in the room. "I know exactly how this works," I said. Calm, clear, final. Something shifted. Not loud, not obvious, but enough. Beatrice's expression changed just a little. Confusion. She wasn't used to resistance, especially not from me. I leaned back in my chair. The room didn't relax. If anything, it got tighter. Because now they didn't know what I was going to do next. And that made them uncomfortable. Good. Have you ever sat in a room where everyone thought you were the weakest person there, while you were the only one who actually knew how everything worked? The phone in my inner pocket vibrated. 3 short pulses, not random, not a message, a code. I didn't check it right away. I didn't need to. There are only a few systems that use that pattern, and none of them send anything unless something has already gone very wrong. I kept my face neutral, but inside the calculation had already started. This dinner, this conversation, this entire little performance, it was about to become irrelevant, because whatever was coming next was bigger than all of them combined. The vibration in my pocket from last night still echoed in my head, blending into the steady beeping of the heart monitor beside my bed. Same rhythm, different meaning. I lay still, staring at the ceiling of the hospital room. Clean white, no personality, no distractions. Just the kind of place where your body gets fixed while everything else keeps moving without you. A tube ran from the IV stand into my arm. Dark red flowed slowly through the line, controlled, measured, necessary. Routine transfusion. The nurse had already checked my vitals twice this morning. Stable. That's the word they always use when they don't want to promise anything. I shifted slightly, careful not to pull the line. My phone rested on the tray beside me. Silent now, but I hadn't forgotten the pattern. 3 short pulses. Joint Chiefs level priority. Not something that waits. The door opened without a knock. Of course, I didn't turn my head right away. I didn't need to. I already knew who it was. "He looks worse in daylight," Beatrice said. Correction, who they were. I turned slowly. Beatrice stood at the foot of the bed, already in uniform. Perfect again. Like she'd been pressed into shape this morning just to remind the world she belonged in it. Dalton stood beside her, holding a leather folder. Same one from last night. Different purpose. "You should be resting," I said. Not because I cared. Because I wanted to hear what excuse they'd use. Beatrice smiled. Not warm, not friendly, just practiced. "We are resting," she said. "This is light work." Dalton stepped closer, placing the folder on the rolling table next to my bed. "We won't take long," he added. "We know your time is limited." I let that sit there. No reaction. He opened the folder. Different documents this time. More technical. More urgent. "This is a supply authorization," Dalton said. "Medical equipment shipment. High priority. Navy contract." I glanced at the top page, then at the authorization codes, then back at him. And I asked. Beatrice crossed her arms. "And you're going to approve it," she said. "Using your access." I almost smiled. "Secretary-level clearance doesn't override procurement review," I said. "You know that." Dalton nodded like he'd expected that answer. "Normally, no," he said. "But in emergency routing with the right internal tag, it bypasses secondary inspection." "Of course it does. There's always a back door. The question is who's allowed to use it." "And you think I can just push it through?" I asked. "You already have before," Beatrice said. I looked at her. Really looked this time. Her posture, her confidence. Then my eyes dropped to her chest. That's when I saw it. The metal, new, polished, positioned carefully on her uniform. Not just any metal, that one. I didn't say anything right away. Dalton kept talking. "The shipment needs to clear today," he said. "Delay costs millions, and more importantly, it affects operational readiness." Operational readiness. That phrase again. Always sounds clean. Always hides something dirty. What's in the shipment? I asked. Medical filters, blood processing units. Standard issue, Dalton replied quickly. Too quickly, and you need me because I asked. Beatrice stepped forward this time. Because your job exists for a reason, she said. You sit at a desk in the Pentagon. You move paperwork. This is paperwork. There it was, back to simple, back to small. I looked back at the medal. Same design, same ribbon, same citation. My fingers tightened slightly against the hospital sheet. I knew that operation, not from a briefing, from the inside. A windowless room, no natural light, no clock, just screens, encrypted signals, broken comms, a fleet blind in hostile water, and one decision, one sequence of code that either rerouted everything or lost 5,000 sailors in under 10 minutes. I wrote that sequence, line by line, no margin for error, no second attempt. I brought them home. And now she was wearing it, like she'd earned it. Nice medal, I said. Beatrice smiled, proud. It is, isn't it, she said. Pacific Operation, Intelligence Extraction under Hostile Conditions. She said it like she believed it, like she'd been there. Dalton glanced at me, watching for a reaction. I gave him none. You're welcome, by the way, she added. That almost made me laugh. Instead, I shifted slightly in the bed, adjusting the IV line. Take it off, I said calmly. The room went quiet. Beatrice blinked. What? She asked. I looked at her again. Direct. Steady. You're wearing it wrong, I said. Her expression tightened. It's perfectly aligned, she snapped. I shook my head slightly. Not the placement, I said. The meaning. Dalton stepped in. Let's stay focused, he said quickly. We're not here for this. But Beatrice didn't step back. She moved closer. You don't get to comment on things you don't understand, she said. There it was, the assumption, the foundation of everything. I reached over, picked up the top document from the folder and scanned it again. Routing codes, supplier IDs, batch numbers. Something didn't sit right, but I didn't dig into it yet. Not in front of them. I placed the paper back down. No, I said. Simple, flat, final. Dalton froze for half a second. Beatrice didn't. Her reaction was immediate. Excuse me, she said. I'm not approving it, I replied. Her jaw tightened. You don't have a choice, she said. I looked at her. I always have a choice, I said. Dalton leaned in, lowering his voice. Let's be realistic, he said. You rely on family support, medical coverage, access. All of that can change. There it was, the real pressure point. Not money, not reputation, survival. Beatrice folded her arms again. Dad already talked to the board, she said. Your special medical coverage. It's not permanent. I held her gaze. You're threatening to cut off my treatment, I said. I'm stating facts, she replied. No hesitation, no shame. I nodded once. Processing, calculating. Then I leaned back slightly against the pillow. Your metal's crooked, I said. Not louder, not sharper, just precise. Beatrice's face changed. Not anger first. Something else. A flicker. Because my tone didn't match the room. It didn't match the situation. It didn't match the version of me they believed in. You think this is a joke? She asked. I tilted my head slightly. No, I said. I think you're standing in a hospital room threatening a patient over paperwork you don't understand, while wearing recognition for work you didn't do. Dalton stepped back. Not far. Just enough. Beatrice didn't move, but her shoulders weren't as steady. You don't know what you're talking about, she said. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just looked at her and held it. Long enough. The heart monitor beeped steadily beside me. The IV continued its slow, controlled flow. Everything in the room stayed the same, except her, because for the first time, she wasn't completely sure anymore. I pulled the IV line out myself the moment the nurse stepped out of the room, not violently, not careless, just quick and clean. The adhesive peeled back, the needle slid out, a small bead of blood surfaced, then stopped. I pressed gauze over it and taped it down without looking. I didn't have time to stay in that bed. I swung my legs over the side, waited half a second for the dizziness to settle, then stood up. Stable enough. Good. The hospital hallway was quiet this early. A few staff. No questions. People see a patient in a gown walking with purpose. They assume there's a reason. There was. By the time I reached the parking structure, my phone was already in my hand. One secure line, 2 taps, no greeting. Patch me through, I said. A pause. Then a voice I recognized immediately. Location, he asked. Bethesda, I replied. I need clearance to access SCIF Delta. Another pause, shorter this time. Approved. You have 30 minutes. That was generous. I hung up. The drive was quiet. No music. No distractions. Just distance closing between me and the only place where the truth actually lives. Underground. The Pentagon always looks controlled on the surface. Clean lines, predictable movement. Everyone in uniform or business attire like the system is running exactly how it should. It isn't. The elevator down to the SCIF didn't require conversation. Badge, scan, secondary authentication, a green light. The doors opened. Everything changed the moment I stepped inside. No windows, no signal, no outside noise, just systems. Rows of terminals. Soft hum of secured servers. Air colder than it needs to be. This is where things get real. I sat down at an open terminal and logged in. Credentials accepted. Access granted. No hesitation. Of course not. I don't get stopped here. I pulled up the shipment file Dalton had shown me. Same routing ID, same supplier, same urgency tag. But this time, I wasn't looking at the surface. I opened the back-end logs, then the procurement chain, then the supplier verification layer. That's where it started to break. The company name matched Clayton's firm, but the material origin codes didn't. They were rerouted, masked. I ran a deeper trace. 3 layers down, the origin flagged. Not approved, not even close. Cheap imports, unverified manufacturing, no military-grade certification. I leaned back slightly, letting the data settle. Then I kept digging. Batch numbers, cross-referenced, failure reports, buried, not deleted, hidden. That's the mistake people make. They think hiding data is enough. It's not. Not when someone knows where to look. I opened the quality control logs. Test results came up. Filtration efficiency below standard. Contamination risk flagged. Rejected. But the rejection never made it to final review. It got overridden. Manually. I checked the authorization signature. Dalton. Of course. Then I checked the financial trail. Transfers routed through shell accounts. Clean. Too clean. Until you follow the timing, payments hit accounts just before each override. Large amounts. Consistent pattern. I didn't need to guess anymore. They knew. Every failed test. Every contamination risk. Every corner they cut. They signed off anyway. I stared at the screen for a second longer. Not surprised. Just done confirming. Then I pulled up the distribution map. Where the shipment was going, routes lit up across the display. Multiple destinations. Then one stood out. Highlighted. Priority delivery. Carrier strike group. Out in the Pacific. Active deployment. Thousands of personnel. I zoomed in. Timeline. The shipment wasn't sitting in storage. It was already moving. Fast. Scheduled for immediate integration into onboard medical systems. That's when the system flagged it. A red warning flashed across the screen. Not subtle. Not quiet. Critical alert. Contamination risk high. Deployment status active. Time to arrival under 6 hours. I stared at it. 6 hours. That's all the distance between a bad decision and a mass casualty event. I exhaled slowly. No panic. Just clarity. My father wasn't just stealing money. He was gambling with lives. Dalton wasn't just cutting corners. He was pushing defective blood filtration units into active naval operations. Beatrice. She didn't even know what she was protecting. Or maybe she didn't care. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. I moved my hands back to the keyboard. Fast, precise, no wasted motion. I accessed the highest authorization layer available to me. Encrypted command input, restricted, monitored, but not blocked. I typed the override sequence, line by line, each command built on the last. Supply chain node, identification. Authorization escalation, lockdown protocol. I paused for half a second. Not because I wasn't sure. Because once I hit enter, there was no going back. This wasn't just a delay. This was exposure. Financial systems, logistics, everything tied to that shipment would freeze. And when it froze, people would start asking questions. Good, I hit enter. The system processed. 1 second, 2. Then confirmed. Supply chain locked. Distribution halted. Authorization access revoked. The red warning shifted from active threat to contained. I leaned back in the chair, The hum of the room didn't change. The systems kept running. But somewhere out there, a shipment stopped moving. And somewhere else, people who thought they were untouchable just lost control. They thought they could use my condition against me. Thought I was too weak to push back. Too dependent, too easy to manage. I looked at the screen one more time. At the frozen network. At the flagged accounts. At the signatures tied directly to my family. They have no idea what they just triggered. Because in their world, power looks like rank. Like uniforms, like medals. In mine, power is access. And access decides who lives and who doesn't. Part 4. The ultimate betrayal, the ultimate betrayal. The confirmation screen was still glowing in front of me when my vision started to blur. Not dramatically, not all at once, just wrong. The edges of the screen softened first. Then the center lost focus, like someone had quietly turned down the resolution on reality. I blinked. Once, twice. Didn't fix it. My hand tightened slightly on the edge of the desk. Something was off. My breathing shifted, shallow, then tighter. I sat still, waiting for my body to correct itself. It didn't. A pressure started building in my chest. Not pain, not yet. Restriction, like my lungs had decided they weren't interested in doing their job anymore. I exhaled slowly, then tried to take a deeper breath. It didn't go all the way in. That's when I knew. Not fatigue, not the usual. This was chemical. My eyes flicked back to the screen. Medical supply chain, hospital network, batch numbers. A thought connected faster than my body could react. The transfusion this morning, same supplier, same network, same corruption. I pushed myself up from the chair, too fast. The room tilted. My hand shot out, catching the edge of the terminal. Steady, stay upright, think. I reached for my phone, unlocked, dialed. No hesitation. Medical emergency, I said the second the line opened. Anaphylactic response. Pentagon SCIF access level. I need immediate extraction to Bethesda. My voice didn't sound like mine. Too tight, too controlled. The operator didn't ask questions. Stay where you are. Response team en route. I ended the call. My throat tightened next. Swallowing became difficult. Airflow dropped again, faster this time. I moved toward the exit. Each step felt heavier than the last. Not weak, delayed, like my body was running on bad signal. By the time I reached the elevator, my fingers were numb. I pressed the button, waited. Too long. The doors opened. I stepped in. The ride up felt longer than usual. Or maybe my body just didn't have time left to process it normally. By the time I got out, the hallway lights were too bright. Voices sounded distant. Someone said my name. I didn't answer. I kept moving. Then everything dropped. Not a fall. More like the ground came up faster than expected. The next thing I registered was noise. Sharp, urgent, controlled chaos. BP dropping, airway compromised. Get epinephrine ready. Hands moved around me. Fast, efficient, professional. I didn't open my eyes right away. Didn't need to. I knew where I was, Bethesda. ER. Someone pressed something cold against my arm. Another injection. My chest tightened harder, then loosened slightly. Air came in again. Not enough, but more than before. Stay with us, a voice said. I didn't respond. Not because I couldn't. Because I was focusing on breathing. In, out, in. Not enough, but still there. Time moved differently after that. Not slower, fragmented. Pieces instead of flow. Voices, footsteps, monitors, then one sentence cut through everything. We need compatible blood. Now. Another voice answered. Type is rare, inventory is low. Pause, call family, that landed. Not emotionally. Logically, of course. Genetic match. Fastest option. I tried to open my eyes. They didn't cooperate. My body was still deciding whether it wanted to stay functional. Footsteps approached. Different ones, not medical, heavier, confident. Then a voice I knew too well. What's the situation, Clayton? Of course he came. Not for me, for control. The doctor spoke quickly. She's in critical condition, severe allergic reaction. We need an immediate transfusion. You and your daughter are the closest genetic matches. Silence. Short, measured. Then my father spoke again. Calm, too calm. And if we don't, he asked. The doctor hesitated. That's not really an option, he said. Without blood support, she won't. I understand the medical side, Clayton cut in. I'm asking about the outcome. Another pause. Then reluctantly, she won't survive. There it was, clear, final, no room for interpretation. I forced my eyes open just enough to catch shapes. Blurred, but recognizable. My father stood at the foot of the bed. Beatrice beside him, arms crossed. Watching, not rushing, not moving. Dalton wasn't there, smart. Clayton reached into his jacket. Pulled something out. Paper, of course. Even now, even here. He stepped closer, not to help. To position himself. Before we proceed, he said. Holding the document up slightly, there's a small matter to settle. The doctor stared at him. Confused. Sir, this is not the time. It's exactly the time, Clayton replied. His voice didn't raise. Didn't need to. Confidence like that doesn't shout. It assumes. This is a power of attorney, he continued. Medical and financial. She signs, we move forward, we help, we stabilize the situation. I felt my fingers twitch. Weak, but still mine. The doctor looked between him and me. She's not in a condition to consent, he said. Clayton smiled. Not wide, just enough. She understands, he said. Don't you? I tried to focus. The paper, the pen, his hand, so close, always controlling. Beatrice finally spoke. You heard him, she said. This doesn't have to be difficult. Her tone was almost bored. Like this was just another inconvenience. Sign it, she added. Or don't, your choice. Choice. That word again. My chest tightened. Air in, air out, barely. Clayton leaned closer. I could see his face now, clearer, colder. This is simple, he said quietly. You're not going to make it without us. No emotion, just fact. We're not wasting good blood on a lost cause, he added. The doctor stepped forward. Sir, that's not how this works. Clayton didn't even look at him. She's been a burden her entire life, he said. Weak, dependent, always needing something. Each word landed clean. No hesitation, no return on investment, he finished. Investment, that's what I was to him. A failed one. He straightened slightly, held the pen out. Sign, he said. My hand didn't move. Not toward the pen, not toward anything. Just stayed where it was still. Beatrice sighed. Unbelievable, she muttered. Clayton's expression shifted. Not angry, annoyed. Like I was still refusing to cooperate at the worst possible time. Then he leaned in closer, lower so only I could hear. You're already gone, he said quietly. This is just paperwork. Then louder. If she doesn't sign, he said stepping back, we're done here. The doctor looked stunned. You're refusing to donate, he asked. Clayton shrugged. She made her choice. Beatrice didn't move, didn't argue, didn't hesitate. She just stood there, agreeing, silently, completely. My vision darkened again, faster this time, not gradual, closing like a door. The monitor beside me started to change, beeping sharper, more urgent. Voices picked up, movement increased, but none of it mattered, because the last thing I saw was my father lowering the pen and walking away. The moment his hand started to reach for mine, the sound hit. Sharp, loud, unmistakable. A piercing alarm ripped through the hallway outside. Code red, not a drill, not a mistake, real. The entire floor shifted in seconds. Footsteps accelerated, voices changed tone. Doors slammed somewhere down the corridor. Even through the haze in my vision, I recognized it immediately. Security lockdown. Clayton paused. His fingers stopped just short of touching my hand. What the hell is that? He muttered. No one answered him, because the answer came fast. Heavy boots, multiple, closing in. Then the door exploded open, not pushed, not opened, forced. Wood slammed against the wall hard enough to echo. Not doctors, not hospital staff. Armed agents. Black tactical gear, controlled movement. Weapons up but disciplined. NCIS. They moved like a unit. 2 stepped in first, clearing corners. 2 more followed, positioning themselves instantly around my bed. Angles covered. Entry secured. No hesitation. No confusion. The room changed in less than 3 seconds. From medical emergency to controlled operation. 1 agent moved to my left side, another to my right. A third positioned himself directly between me and Clayton. A wall, solid, unbreakable. "What is this?" Clayton snapped, stepping forward, authority back in his voice. The version he uses when he expects people to listen. "I'm a retired colonel." Stop. The word cut him off clean. The man who said it stepped in last. No rush, no wasted motion, different presence. Leader, NCIS team lead. His eyes scanned the room once, everything processed, everything understood. Then he focused on Clayton. "You need to step back," he said. Not loud, not aggressive, just final. Clayton didn't move. "You don't give me orders," he shot back. "This is my daughter." The agent didn't even let him finish. He stepped forward. Close enough, controlled. Then with one quick motion he knocked the paper out of Clayton's hand. It hit the floor, ignored. The pen followed, rolled under the bed. Gone. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Clayton snapped. The agent's expression didn't change, not even slightly. "Securing a federal asset," he said. The word landed. Asset, not patient, not daughter, not civilian. Clayton blinked. Just once, like his brain needed a second to catch up. Beatrice stepped forward immediately, pulling out her military ID. "Stand down," she ordered, flashing the badge. "I'm an active duty major. You are interfering with lower it." The agent didn't even look at her ID. Beatrice froze. "Not fully, but enough." "I said lower it," he repeated. Same tone, same control. She hesitated. Then slowly, reluctantly, her hand dropped. That was the moment. The shift, not loud, but real. Because for the first time, her rank didn't matter. Clayton tried again. Different angle. "You're making a mistake," he said. "She's in critical condition. We were handling it." "No," the agent said. Still calm, still precise. "You were not." Silence followed, heavy, uncomfortable. Then the agent's gaze hardened. Just slightly, enough to make the point clear. From this moment forward, he said, "No one approaches this bed without authorization." He turned his head slightly, addressing his team, without looking away from Clayton. "Lock it down." "Yes, sir." Two agents adjusted positions. Closer, tighter, no gaps. Weapons stayed low, but ready. Not threatening, prepared. Clayton looked around the room, then back at the agent. "You don't understand," he said. "I'm her father." The agent finally reacted to that. A small shift, not respect, recognition. "Then I'm aware," he said. That was it. No apology, no adjustment, just acknowledgement. Beatrice stepped forward again, slower this time. "What is she to you?" she asked. The question came out sharper than she intended. The agent looked at her, really looked this time, measured, cold. Then he answered. Protected. One word. Enough. Beatrice didn't respond, didn't have anything to say, because that word carried weight she couldn't match. Clayton's voice dropped, lower, more controlled. "On whose authority?" he asked. The agent didn't answer right away. He let the silence sit. "Then above yours," he said. That was the end of it. Clayton's posture changed. Not dramatically, but enough. Because now he understood something he hadn't before. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional, targeted, and he wasn't in control. Not anymore. I could still hear everything. Even through the fading edges of my vision, even through the weight pressing down on my chest. The room was different now, safer, not emotionally, strategically, because the variables had changed. Clayton wasn't the one deciding outcomes anymore. The agent stepped slightly to the side, checking the monitors. "Vitals?" he asked. "Unstable," the doctor replied quickly. "We still need blood." The agent nodded once, then spoke into a comm on his shoulder. "Status." A voice came back immediately. "Package secured. Primary inbound." The agent didn't react outwardly, but I caught it. Primary inbound. That wasn't standard. That meant someone important was already on the way. Clayton heard it too. "What does that mean?" he demanded. No one answered him, because no one needed to. He was already being moved out of the center of the situation, and he knew it. Beatrice looked at me again. Different this time. Not annoyed, not superior, uncertain. Like she was trying to recalculate something that no longer made sense. Good. They thought I had no one, no backup, no leverage, just a sick body in a hospital bed. They forgot something. In their world, power comes from rank, from titles, from what people can see. In mine, power comes from what you control when no one's looking. And right now, They were standing in a room controlled by someone else, not them, never them. Because while they were busy trying to decide whether I was worth saving, they forgot one simple fact. I'm the one who decides who gets saved. The silence didn't last. It cracked under the sound of footsteps, not rushed, not chaotic, measured, heavy. Each step hit the floor with purpose, echoing down the hallway like a countdown no one in the room could ignore. Even through the blur in my vision, I felt it. The shift. The agents felt it too. Subtle, posture tightening, attention sharpening. Someone important had just entered the building. The footsteps got closer. Voices outside dropped immediately. People moved, not told to, just instinct, clearing space, making way. The door didn't get kicked open this time. It opened. Controlled, and he walked in. Full uniform, perfectly aligned. 4 stars on his shoulders, catching the light like they were designed to be seen from across a battlefield. Admiral Kenneth Thorne, Commander Pacific Fleet. He didn't look around the room. He didn't need to. The room adjusted to him. Clayton moved first. Of course he did. His posture snapped into something close to respectful. Not real respect, strategic respect. The kind you use when you think you can benefit from it. Admiral Thorne, Clayton said quickly, stepping forward with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. What an honor, I wasn't expecting. He extended his hand, confident, eager, already positioning himself. The Admiral didn't even slow down. He walked right past him. No eye contact, no acknowledgement, nothing. Clayton's hand stayed in the air for half a second longer than it should have, then dropped. Slowly. That was the first crack. Beatrice stepped forward next. Faster, more controlled. Sir, she said, straightening instinctively. Major Beatrice ignored. Completely. The Admiral's focus was already locked on something else. Someone else. Me. He stopped at the side of my bed. Close enough. Clear line of sight. No hesitation. No doubt. He reached up, removed his uniform jacket in one smooth motion, and handed it off without looking. One of the agents took it immediately, then he rolled up his sleeves. Precise. Efficient. Like he'd done this before. He turned to the doctor. Status, he said. The doctor blinked, clearly thrown off by the sudden presence. Critical, he answered quickly. Severe anaphylactic reaction. We need immediate transfusion. Blood type is rare and I'm a match, the Admiral cut in. No pause, no question, just fact. The room froze. Not from confusion, from impact. The doctor hesitated. Sir, we'd need to run confirmation tests. Do it, the Admiral said. Now. His tone didn't rise, didn't push, but it carried something stronger than urgency. Authority that doesn't get questioned. The doctor nodded immediately. Prep for donor, he called out. Everything shifted again, faster this time, focused. The Admiral stepped closer to the bed, close enough that I could see his face clearly now, calm, sharp, no wasted expression. He looked down at me, not like I was fragile, not like I was a problem, like I was someone worth keeping alive. Stay with me, he said, simple, direct. No softness, but not cold either, just real. Behind him, Clayton finally found his voice again. Admiral? There's been a misunderstanding, he said quickly. The situation is under control. My daughter and I were already handling. The Admiral turned, slowly, deliberately, and for the first time he looked at Clayton, really looked at him, measured, evaluated, dismissed. Then he spoke. No, he said. One word. Enough. Clayton tried again, different angle. She's just a sick girl, he said, forcing a laugh that didn't land. She works a desk job. This level of response isn't necessary. That's when it happened. The shift, not subtle, not controlled. The Admiral's expression changed, just slightly, but enough, because now there was something behind his eyes. Not confusion, not curiosity, anger. You think she works a desk job, he asked. Clayton hesitated. Just for a second. Yes, he said. Low-level administrative, stop talking. The room went silent, not because of volume, because of weight. The Admiral took one step toward him, not aggressive, not threatening, but it closed the distance enough to make the point clear. You have no idea who you're speaking about, he said. Each word landed clean, controlled, final. Beatrice shifted beside Clayton, uneasy, that confidence she carried earlier gone. Replaced with something else, uncertainty. The Admiral didn't look at her, didn't need to. Because the next sentence wasn't for her. It was for everyone in the room. Yesterday, he said a carrier strike group under my command lost full communication in hostile waters. No one moved. No one spoke. 5,000 sailors, he continued. Blind, exposed, 10 minutes away from a catastrophic failure. The doctor froze. The agents didn't move. Clayton didn't breathe. And the only reason they are still alive right now, the Admiral said, his voice tightening just enough, is because the woman in that bed rebuilt their entire command structure in under 6 minutes from a secured underground facility. Silence hit harder than anything else. He let it sit. Then she is the senior strategic architect for the United States Navy, he said. And the only reason half of my fleet is still operational. No one interrupted. No one dared. Because now the truth was in the room, and it didn't match anything Clayton had been saying. The Admiral turned back to me, then to the doctor. Take my blood, he said. As much as she needs. No hesitation, no conditions, just action. You do not let her die on my watch, he added. That was it. No speech, no explanation, just a command. The doctor moved immediately. Prep line, he called out. Clayton staggered back a step. Not dramatic, just enough. His face drained, color gone, like something inside him finally understood the scale of the mistake. Beatrice didn't step back. She couldn't. Her legs didn't cooperate. She stood there, frozen, eyes locked on me, then on the Admiral, then back to me, trying to connect two versions of reality that no longer matched. The weak sister, the one in this bed, the one they tried to control, and the one the Admiral just described. They didn't line up. They couldn't, because everything they believed about me was wrong. The line between us filled slowly. Dark red moved through the tube from his arm to mine, steady and controlled. No rush, no waste, just flow. The monitor beside me adjusted first, beeping steadier, less sharp, more consistent. My chest followed. Air came in deeper this time. Not perfect, but enough. I didn't move right away. I let the system do its job. Let the blood settle. Let my body catch up. Then I opened my eyes. Fully clear. The room came back into focus piece by piece. Lights, ceiling, movement, then faces. The Admiral sat beside the bed, sleeves still rolled up, calm, like this was just another decision in a long day. The doctor monitored both lines carefully. The agents held position, and across the room, Clayton, standing exactly where he had been, but not the same, not even close. His posture was off, his expression broken, not emotionally, structurally, like something fundamental had shifted and he didn't know how to rebuild it. Beatrice stood beside him, still, silent. Her eyes locked on the tube between me and the Admiral, then slowly moved up to my face. I pushed the button on the side of the bed. The motor hummed. The backrest lifted. Slow, controlled. No one helped me. No one needed to. I sat up. Straight, stable. The difference was immediate. Not just physical. Presence. Clayton reacted first. Admiral, sir, he said. Stepping forward slightly, voice uneven. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Stop. The Admiral didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Clayton stopped. Mid-sentence. Mid-step. Frozen. The Admiral stood up, turned fully toward him. And this time there was no restraint left in his expression, just controlled anger. You said she works a desk job, he said. Each word slower now, sharper. Clayton swallowed. I meant... No, the Admiral cut in. You meant exactly what you said. Silence. No one moved. The Admiral took one step closer, closing the distance. For the past 18 hours, he continued. My fleet has been operating under restored command because of one person. He didn't point, didn't gesture, didn't need to. Your daughter, he said. The words hit harder than anything else. Clayton's mouth opened, closed. No response came out. 5,000 sailors, the Admiral went on. Alive today because she rebuilt a compromised network under active threat conditions. His tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. You call that paperwork, he asked. No answer, no defense, because there wasn't one. She is the reason the Pentagon still has control over multiple active operations right now, the Admiral said. And you stood in this room and called her a burden. The room held that. Let it sink in, let it settle. Clayton didn't argue anymore, couldn't. Because now he understood. Not just that he was wrong, but how wrong. I watched him, calm, steady. Then I spoke. "You're right, Dad," I said. My voice was even, no strain, no emotion. "I do paperwork." That got his attention. His eyes snapped back to me. Hope. Just a flicker, like maybe he still had something to stand on. I reached under the pillow, pulled out the tablet, black, encrypted, secured. I placed it on my lap, activated it. One touch. Screen lit up instantly. No delay, no password prompt. I don't get slowed down by systems I built. I tapped twice, connected it to the room display. The large monitor on the wall flickered, then synced. Data filled the screen, clean, organized, clear. I looked at him, then at Beatrice, then back at the screen. "These are the papers I handle," I said. I tapped again. The first set appeared. Procurement logs, supplier chains, batch reports, red flags highlighted, medical supply shipments. I continued, routed through a private contractor. Another tap. Names appeared, clear, centered. Dalton, Clayton, signatures, authorization stamps, time-stamped approvals. Beatrice stepped back, not by choice, instinct. Clayton didn't move. He just stared. At the screen, at his own name, at the evidence. I didn't rush, didn't pile it on, just let it sit there. Let him read it. Let him understand. "These units failed internal testing," I said. "Contamination risks were flagged and overridden." Another tap. Financial trails appeared. Clean transfers, then deeper layers, hidden accounts, linked patterns, money moving, millions, tens of millions. Funds rerouted through shell accounts I added, payments issued before each override. The doctor looked at the screen, then at Clayton, then back again. The agents didn't react. They already knew. Beatrice shook her head. "No," she said quietly. "That's not it." Is I cut in. Not louder, just final. I looked at her. "You signed off on distribution clearance," I said. "You didn't check what you were approving." Her face drained, because she knew. Not the full picture, but enough. I turned back to Clayton. "The shipment you pushed this morning," I said, "was 6 hours away from deployment into an active carrier group." He didn't speak. Couldn't. "Those filters would have failed," I continued. "And when they did, they wouldn't just break equipment." I paused. Just long enough. They would have killed people. Silence. Heavy, absolute. I leaned back slightly, still holding his gaze. "You told me I was a burden," I said, "that I couldn't survive on a real ship. No anger, no bitterness, just fact. But yesterday I added I kept 5,000 people alive from a room you don't even have clearance to enter. That landed. Deep. Permanent." I looked at the screen one more time, at the evidence, at the truth. Then back at him. "This is my paperwork," I said, and for the first time, he had nothing left to say. The room didn't explode, it tightened. Like everything inside it got pulled inward at the same time. The screen behind me still showed the data. Names, numbers, transfers, signatures. No room for interpretation. No way out. That's when Dalton moved. Not fast, not obvious, but I saw it. A step toward the door, casual, like he just needed air, like he wasn't part of the problem. 2 agents moved before he reached the handle. One grabbed his arm, the other drove him down, clean, efficient. No struggle that lasted more than a second. Dalton hit the floor hard, a short grunt, then metal, cuffs locked. "Stay down," one of them said. Dalton didn't argue, didn't fight, because he knew this wasn't a situation you talk your way out of. Clayton turned. Too late. "Wait," he started. No one listened. Beatrice didn't move at first. She was still staring at the screen, at the names, at the connections, trying to separate herself from it. Trying to find a version where she wasn't included. There wasn't one. Then she snapped. "This isn't on me," she said suddenly. Her voice cracked. "Not controlled anymore. This is his doing," she added, pointing at Clayton. "And Dalton's. I didn't know anything about defective supplies. I just signed off on what I was given." She stepped forward. Too fast, toward the Admiral, grabbing for something stable, something powerful. "Sir, I am a decorated officer," she said, reaching for his arm. "You know what that means. I would never knowingly compromise." The agent nearest her stepped in, blocked her, firm. She stopped, but she didn't back away. "Look at my record," she pushed. "Look at my medal, that operation." That's when my attention locked onto it again. The medal, still there, still sitting on her chest like it belonged, like it meant something. I watched it for a second, then I spoke. "Take it off." My voice wasn't loud, didn't need to be. The room heard it anyway. Beatrice froze, her eyes snapped to me. What she asked. I didn't repeat it right away, I just held her gaze. "Then take it off," I said again. Same tone, same control. The Admiral looked at me, just briefly, then he nodded. Once. That was all it took. One of the agents stepped forward immediately. Beatrice reacted. "No, wait," she said, stepping back. Too late. The agent reached her, one hand steady, one motion, the medal came off. Clean, no ceremony, no respect, just removal. The fabric of her uniform shifted slightly where it had been pinned. Empty space left behind. The agent held it for half a second, then stepped back. Beatrice stared at the spot, like something physical had been taken out of her. "Not just medal, identity, no," she said quietly, then louder. "No, that's mine," her voice broke. "I earned that," she insisted. "I was there." I leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, just enough. "No, you weren't," I said. The room went still again, because now it wasn't about money or fraud. This was personal. "You were in the command center after the extraction was already complete," I continued. "You showed up for the photos." Her breathing changed. Fast, unsteady. "That's not true," she said. "Weak, unconvincing. You don't even know what the operation involved," I added. "You repeated the report they handed you." She shook her head. "No," she said again. But it didn't land, because she knew. Deep down, she knew. I kept my voice steady. "You didn't rebuild the signal chain," I said. "You didn't reroute the fleet. You didn't make the call that kept them alive." I paused. Just a second. Then I did. That was it. No elevation, no drama, just fact. Beatrice's legs gave out. Not dramatically, just enough. She dropped to her knees, hands hitting the floor to catch herself. Her breathing broke completely now, not controlled, not composed, raw. Her makeup started to run. She didn't fix it. Didn't try, because there was nothing left to fix. "I didn't know," she said, her voice shaking. "I didn't know it was you." I didn't respond, because that wasn't the point. The Admiral stepped forward, took the medal from the agent, looked at it for a moment, then spoke. "This doesn't belong to you," he said. Simple, final. He handed it off. Gone. Just like that. Beatrice stayed on the floor, not moving, not arguing, because now there was nothing left to defend. Clayton looked between all of us. His control was gone. Completely. "This is being blown out of proportion," he said, forcing something that sounded like authority but didn't hold. "It's paperwork. Contracts. Supply issues. That's not treason." The word hung there. Treason. No one rushed to correct him. Because he just said it himself. The agent in charge stepped forward. "It is when you knowingly push compromised materials into active military operations," he said. Calm, professional. "And when those materials have a high probability of causing loss of life." Clayton didn't answer, couldn't, because now the conversation wasn't about opinion. It was about consequence. I watched all of it. From the bed, steady, present, every piece falling exactly where it needed to. They built everything on image, rank, reputation, control, and now, every one of those things was being stripped away, one by one. No noise, no chaos, just removal, clean, precise, permanent. And the worst part for them, this wasn't revenge. This was correction. And correction doesn't ask for permission. The cuffs clicked shut, clean, final. Clayton didn't resist when they put his hands behind his back. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. The man who used to control every room he walked into now stood there, quiet, not composed, not strategic, just empty. His hands trembled slightly inside the restraints, not from anger, from realization. Dalton was already on his feet again, held firmly between two agents. No more movement, no more attempts to slip away, just controlled breathing and a face that had already accepted the outcome. Beatrice was still on the floor. She hadn't moved, hadn't tried to stand. Her hands rested in her lap, now fingers loosely curled like she didn't know what to do with them anymore. The room didn't feel tense anymore. It felt settled, like everything had already happened and now it was just a matter of procedure. Clayton looked at me, really looked this time, not past me, not through me, at me, and for the first time in my life. He didn't see something beneath him. He saw something he couldn't control. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "Audrey," he said. My name sounded different coming from him now, not dismissive, not sharp, uncertain. I didn't respond. He took a step forward. The agents didn't stop him. Not yet. "I didn't know it would go this far," he said. His voice cracked slightly. Not dramatic, but real. "This wasn't supposed to." He stopped himself. "We were managing risk. That's all. That's what business is." I watched him. No reaction. No interruption. He swallowed. Hard. "You have to understand," he went on. "Everything I did, it was for the family." There it was, the justification. The one people always use when they run out of better ones. I still didn't respond. Because I didn't need to. Beatrice finally looked up. Her eyes were red. Not from a performance. From collapse. "Audrey," she said, her voice barely holding together. "We're still family," that word again. Family, it sounded smaller now. Weaker, like it didn't carry the weight they thought it did. "I didn't know what he was doing," she added quickly, gesturing toward Clayton. "I swear, I just signed what they gave me. I trusted." Stop. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. She stopped immediately, because the tone was enough. I shifted slightly in the bed. Sat straighter, fully present now, no weakness left in my posture, just control. Clayton tried again. Different angle, more direct. "You can fix this," he said. Hope, desperation, mixed together. "You have access, influence. You can make this go away. You've done it before. You know how the system works." Of course I did. Better than he ever would. That shipment, the freeze, the reports, he continued. "You can adjust them, delay them, redirect attention." He took another step forward. Closer. "Just say the word," he said. "And this ends here." That was the offer. Not apology, not accountability, a deal. Even now, even here. I looked at him, calm, steady. Then I spoke. "You're right," I said. His face shifted. Hope sharpened. Immediate. He leaned in slightly. I added. That hope grew. Faster, stronger. Because he thought he understood how this worked. I let the silence sit for a second. "Then I just won't." That was it. Simple. Final. It hit him harder than anything else had. Because this wasn't out of my control. This wasn't inevitable. This was a choice. My choice. Beatrice shook her head. "No. No, you don't mean that," she said quickly. "You wouldn't do that to us. Us still holding on to that. Still believing it mattered." I looked at her. Long enough. Then I spoke again. "You stood in this room," I said, and watched him decide whether I was worth saving. No emotion, just fact. "You agreed." She flinched. Physically, because she remembered. Every second of it. Clayton stepped forward again. More urgent now. "Audrey, listen to me." "No," I said. "One word." "Enough." He stopped. Because now he understood something he hadn't before. This wasn't a negotiation. I leaned back slightly, relaxed, in control. "You didn't want to waste your blood on a sick daughter," I said. Each word clear, sharp, measured. "Don't expect me to waste mercy on traitors." Silence. Absolute. No one moved. No one spoke. Because that was the sentence, the final one. I lifted my hand slightly, a small motion, nothing dramatic, just enough. The agent in charge nodded. "Move." The command went out instantly. Dalton was pulled toward the door first. No resistance, no delay. Clayton followed. But this time he did resist. Not physically, emotionally. "Audrey," he said, voice breaking. "Please, I'm your father." The word didn't land, not anymore. The agents didn't slow down. They pulled him forward, step by step. Beatrice was the last. She tried to stand, failed once, then managed it. Barely. Her legs didn't hold steady. "Audrey," she whispered. Not loud enough for the room, but loud enough for me. "Sister." I didn't answer, didn't react. Because that word didn't belong here anymore. They were moved out. One by one. No ceremony, no dignity. Just procedure. The door closed behind them, and just like that, they were gone. The room went quiet again. Not tense, not heavy, just still. The Admiral stepped forward. adjusted his sleeve, picked up his uniform jacket, put it back on, precise, controlled. Then he turned to me, stood straight, no hesitation, and raised his hand in a formal salute, clean, sharp, respect, not for rank, not for position, for what I did. I held his gaze, then nodded once. That was enough, no words needed, because everything that mattered had already been said. The monitors continued their steady rhythm beside me. The IV line remained in place. The room returned to normal, but nothing about this was normal anymore, because the people who once looked down at me were no longer part of my world, not by distance, by removal, complete, permanent. And the truth is, the most effective form of revenge isn't loud. It doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, it doesn't prove anything, it just lets the outcome speak. And sometimes, the strongest position you can hold is sitting still while everything else collapses. I watched the door close behind them and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no relief, no sense of victory, just quiet. That's the part people don't talk about. They think moments like that come with emotion, some big release, some kind of payoff. They don't. Not when you've already processed everything long before it happens. I leaned back against the hospital bed, listening to the steady rhythm of the monitor beside me. My body was stabilizing, but my mind had already moved on. Because the truth is, they didn't lose because I was stronger. They lost because they misunderstood what strength actually looks like. My entire life, people looked at me and saw one thing: weak, sick, limited. A problem that needed managing. And to be fair, I understood why. I wasn't the one running around in uniform. I wasn't the one standing in front of rooms giving orders. I wasn't visible. And in most people's minds, if you can't see power, it doesn't exist. That's the first mistake. People don't underestimate you because you're weak. They underestimate you because they don't understand your kind of strength. There's a difference, a big one. My sister built her identity around recognition. Rank, medals, approval, everything about her strength had to be seen, validated, confirmed by someone else, my father. Same system, control, money, influence. If people reacted to him, he believed he had power. But here's the problem with that kind of strength. It only works as long as everyone agrees to play along. The moment reality shows up, it collapses, fast. Because real strength doesn't come from attention, it comes from function. What do you actually do when things break? That's the question that matters. Not how you look, not what people call you, not what's on your uniform. What can you fix? When everything is falling apart. That's where I live, not on stage, not in the spotlight, in the system. And systems don't care about appearances. They care about results. That's why I never argued with them, never defended myself, never tried to prove anything. Because proving yourself to the wrong people is a losing strategy. You waste energy, you reveal your position, you play on their terms, and when you play on their terms, you lose. Every time. I learned that early, so I stopped explaining, stopped correcting, stopped reacting, and I started building, quietly, consistently, without needing anyone to notice. Because here's the second truth most people miss. If you have to tell people how strong you are, you're not. Real strength doesn't introduce itself. It shows up when it's needed, and when it does, nobody questions it. That's what happened in that room. Not because I said anything, not because I demanded anything, but because when everything reached the point where it couldn't be ignored anymore, they called me, not her, not him, me. That's how you measure value, not by how loud someone is, but by who gets called when things go wrong. Now here's where this actually matters for you. Because this isn't about me, it's about a pattern you've probably seen in your own life. Maybe you've been underestimated. Maybe you've been the one people talk over, ignore, dismiss. Maybe someone in your life has tried to control you by making you feel like you need them. That's not random. That's strategy. Control always hides behind "I'm helping you." It looks supportive, protective, reasonable, until you realize it only works in one direction. They help you, as long as you stay small, as long as you stay dependent, as long as you don't outgrow the version of you they're comfortable with. The moment you do, they push back. Hard. That's not concern. That's control breaking. And if you don't recognize that, you stay stuck. So here's the part no one likes to hear. You don't fix that by arguing. You don't fix that by demanding respect. You fix that by removing their leverage. That's it. No drama, no speeches, no confrontation, just strategy. You build yourself into a position where they can't control the outcome anymore. And that takes time. It's not fast, it's not emotional, it's not satisfying in the short term, but it works. So if you're in that position right now, here's what actually matters. First, build something that doesn't depend on their approval. A skill, a role, a system, something real. Something that functions whether they believe in you or not. Second, stop announcing your growth. People talk too early, they reveal plans before they're ready, and then they get blocked. Stay quiet. Let them underestimate you. It's an advantage. Use it. Third, pick your moment. You don't push back every time. You don't react to every insult. You wait until the situation matters, until the outcome is real. Then you move, and when you do, you don't argue, you don't explain, you just act. That's the difference. That's what they never understood about me. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought patience meant dependency. They thought control belonged to the person speaking the loudest. They were wrong. Because the strongest position you can be in is not the one everyone sees. It's the one no one can replace. And once you reach that point, you don't need to fight for respect anymore. You don't need to prove anything. You don't even need to respond. Because the moment will come when everything depends on you, and when it does, the same people who ignored you will be forced to listen. Not because you changed who you are, but because they finally understand what you've been all along. I didn't win because I had more authority. I didn't win because I had a higher rank. I won because I controlled something they didn't even understand. That's the part most people miss when they look at situations like mine. They think power comes from titles, from position, from how many people salute you when you walk into a room. It doesn't. Those things give you visibility. They give you status, but they don't give you control. And without control, none of it holds. I've seen people with perfect resumes fall apart the moment something goes off script. I've seen people with impressive titles freeze when the system they rely on stops working, because they don't actually run anything. They sit on top of it. And that works, until it doesn't. My father thought money was power. As long as he could move it, hide it, redirect it, he believed he was in control. My sister thought recognition was power. Medals, rank, validation from people above her. She believed that made her untouchable. But both of them were operating on the same flawed assumption. They thought power is what people see. It's not. Power is what people depend on. That's the difference. And it's a big one, because dependency doesn't care about perception. It cares about function. When something breaks, who can fix it? That's where real power shows up. Not in meetings, not in speeches, in moments where failure isn't an option. That's where I operate. Not visible, not loud, but necessary. And necessity is the highest form of leverage you can have. Let me break that down in a way that actually applies to you, because this isn't about military systems. It's about how control works in real life. Most people chase position. They want the title, the promotion, the recognition. They want people to look at them and say, that person is important. But here's the problem. If your value is based on how people see you, then your power depends on their opinion, and opinions change. Fast. The moment you're not useful, the moment you make a mistake. The moment someone better shows up, you're replaceable. That's the part no one likes to admit. But it's true. Now compare that to access. Access is different. Access means you understand something others don't. You can operate in a system others can't. You see patterns others miss. And most importantly, you can fix things they can't fix without you. That's not about being impressive. That's about being essential. And essential people don't get ignored. They get called every time something matters. That's why when the situation escalated, no one called my father, no one called my sister. They called me. Not because I was visible, but because I was required. That's the difference between authority and control. Authority gets attention. Control decides outcomes. And if you want real power in your own life, you need to stop chasing authority and start building access. So how do you actually do that? It's simpler than people think, but it's harder than most are willing to commit to. First, you pick a system, not something random, something that matters. Your job, your industry, a skill that actually connects to real outcomes. Then you go deeper than everyone else. Not surface level knowledge, not just enough to get by. You understand how it works underneath, how decisions get made, where things break, where the weak points are. That's where value lives. Most people never go there. They stay at the top layer because it's easier, because it looks good, because it's visible, but it's also replaceable. Second, you become reliable under pressure. Not when things are easy, not when everything is running smoothly, when something goes wrong. That's when people reveal their real value. Can you think clearly? Can you act without hesitation? Can you fix the problem without creating a bigger one? That's where people earn trust, not through words, through performance. And trust leads to dependency. Third, you stop announcing what you can do. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They talk too much. They try to prove their value before it's needed. And all that does is give other people time to block you, undermine you, or take credit for what you haven't even done yet. Keep it quiet. Let your work speak when it actually matters. Because when people discover your value at the exact moment they need it, that's when it hits the hardest. That's when it sticks. Now let's talk about something most people get completely wrong. Fake power. It looks real at first. Titles, money, recognition, influence. It checks all the boxes, but it has one fatal flaw. It can't survive pressure. The moment something goes wrong, it collapses. Because it was never built on function, it was built on perception. That's exactly what happened to my father, to my sister. Everything they had only worked, as long as no one questioned it. The moment the system pushed back, it all fell apart. Fast, clean, permanent. And here's the part you need to understand. You don't need to destroy people like that. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to expose them. You just need to stop depending on them. And let reality do the rest, because fake power always reveals itself, eventually. You just have to be in a position where it doesn't take you down with it. That's the goal. Not dominance, not control over people, control over outcomes. That's what matters. That's what lasts. So if you take one thing from this, make it this: don't build a version of yourself that looks powerful. Build a version of yourself that people can't operate without. Because when everything starts to fall apart, no one asks who looks important. They ask one question: who can fix this? And when the answer is you, that's when you stop needing permission. That's when you stop needing validation. That's when you stop being overlooked. Not because you changed who you are, but because you built something no one else can replace. When they asked me for mercy, I didn't feel angry. That's the part people don't expect. They think betrayal should come with rage, with shouting, with some kind of emotional explosion that proves how much it hurt. It didn't, because by the time they were begging, I had already processed everything they did. That's something most people don't understand about betrayal. The real damage doesn't happen at the end. It happens in small moments leading up to it. Every time you notice something is off. Every time someone crosses a line and pretends they didn't. Every time you choose to ignore it because you want to believe it's not what it looks like. That's where the truth builds, quietly, piece by piece. So when the final moment comes, it's not shocking, it's confirmation. That's why I didn't react the way they expected. I didn't yell, I didn't break down, I didn't try to hurt them back. Because reacting emotionally would have put me back into their system. And their system only works if you play by their rules. That's the mistake most people make when they're betrayed. They react, immediately, loudly. They try to defend themselves, explain themselves, prove they were wronged. And all that does is give the other person control, because now they know exactly how you feel, exactly where to push, exactly how to manipulate the situation. Emotion makes you predictable, and predictable people are easy to control. That's why I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I understood something more important. Timing matters more than emotion. If you react too early, you lose leverage. If you expose everything too soon, you give them time to adjust, to hide, to spin the story. So I waited, I watched. I let them believe they were still in control. And the entire time, they were building the case against themselves. That's the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge is emotional, fast, messy. You want them to feel what you felt. Justice is controlled, patient, clean. You don't need to hurt them. You just stop protecting them. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't destroy my father. I didn't destroy my sister. I removed myself from the system that was protecting them. And once that protection was gone, reality took over. That's something you need to understand. You don't need to win against people who betray you. You just need to stop holding them up. Because most people don't stand on their own. They stand on what others allow. Take that away, and they fall. Now let's talk about the part people struggle with the most, family, because that word gets used as a shield for behavior that shouldn't be tolerated. They're your family, you only get one. You should forgive them. That sounds good, it sounds reasonable, but here's the truth. Family does not give someone the right to damage you. It does not give them access to your decisions, your resources, your life. And it definitely doesn't mean you have to accept betrayal just because it comes from someone with your last name. That's not loyalty, that's submission, and there's a difference, a big one. So how do you actually handle betrayal the right way, not emotionally, not dramatically, strategically? First, you document everything, not in your head, not based on memory, real records, real proof. Because feelings don't hold up under pressure, facts do. Second, you don't react immediately, even when you want to, especially when you want to, because the moment you react, you show your hand, and once your hand is visible, you lose the advantage. Third, you let them keep going. This is the hardest part, watching someone continue to lie, manipulate, push boundaries, and not stepping in right away. But every step they take builds your position, strengthens your case, makes the outcome cleaner. Fourth, you choose the outcome, not the reaction. Most people focus on getting back at someone. That's short-term thinking. You need to think about where this ends. What do you actually want to happen? Accountability, distance, control. Back. Once you know that, you move toward that outcome, not toward emotional satisfaction, because emotional satisfaction fades. Outcomes last. Now here's the part people don't like. Forgiveness. Everyone talks about it like it's required, like it's the right thing to do. It's not always. Forgiveness is not about being a good person. It's about whether the situation has changed. If someone understands what they did, if they take responsibility, if they change their behavior, then forgiveness makes sense. But if someone only regrets getting caught, if they're only afraid of consequences, nothing has changed. And giving them another chance just resets the cycle. That's what my father did. That's what my sister did. They didn't regret the damage. They regretted losing control. And that's not something you fix with forgiveness. That's something you walk away from, completely. No explanation needed. No second attempt. Just done. Because at some point you have to decide something. Do you want to feel better for a moment? Or do you want to be free long term? You don't always get both. I chose long term. And that's why I didn't react. That's why I didn't argue. That's why I didn't give them anything they could use. I just made a decision. And let everything else follow. So if you're dealing with betrayal right now, here's what you need to remember. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to win an argument. You don't need to make them understand. You just need to see clearly, act at the right time, and choose the outcome that protects you. That's it. Because in the end, the strongest move you can make is not reacting at all. It's deciding. And once you do that, everything else becomes simple.
Final note. This story is a work of fiction, but the valuable lessons we discuss are entirely real and continue to happen to many people every day. If this style isn't for you, that's perfectly okay. Please feel free to look for other content that better suits your needs.